Welcome to the Intrinsic First Leadership Podcast. I'm Aaron Robbins with Intrinsic First. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Be sure to stick around to the end for some debatably funny jokes that will hopefully leave you with a smile. And don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date on our latest episodes. We're here to support you, and we'd love to hear from you. So drop us a comment below or reach out to us directly at info@intrinsicfirst.com. Ready to dive into the world of leadership? Let's get started. Welcome back. It's been ages. And we're going to pick back up where we left off with our Intrinsic First Leadership podcast, talking about team context, leadership in the team context. We talked quite a bit about the negative aspects of a team and what we've experienced that didn't go so well. And now we're going to kind of jump and turn into more what makes a high-performing team.
Okay. Well, one of the things I think needs to happen is that when groups come together, they have to charter what they're doing. And charter means simply what's the purpose of the meeting? What do we want to accomplish? So you're looking at outcomes that you want. And then what's very, very important is the norms that you want to act on or that you want to manifest when you're in the groups. So, for example, you be on time, a simple thing like that. No sunglasses.
No sunglasses in the meeting.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt.
Don't. Yeah,
when someone's talking.
Mm-hmm. Like they just didn't.
Oh, did I just interrupt you?
What?
No interrupting, I said.
Oh. Anyway, the charter is fundamentally the starting point where everybody gets to understand the rules of the game, the rules of the way we want to treat each other in the group.
I have a good charter template. Maybe we could put those in the comments, link it somehow, put it in our website as it's like a little Excel spreadsheet.
But it doesn't even have to be that difficult. I mean, even in our workshops, we take a moment to talk about the norms, right? And that's part of chartering if we're treating a classroom as a team.
Oh, sure. No, I agree with you. But a substantial team that's going to be working for months together, you typically want to document it down.
Yep.
So you've got, I don't know, we did this in Lean Six Sigma. When you have a Six Sigma effort for process improvement, you need to charter the group because everyone needs to be on the same page about what they're doing. What are the objectives? What's the scope? What are we going to focus on and what are we not going to focus on? Because that became very important when we're going through meetings, being able to go back to that and say, oh, hold on, we're off topic here. We're out of scope, because you could waste hours and hours and hours in a team going down rabbit holes that are not relevant to the main objective. But you have scope and objectives, a mission, vision,
he mentioned norms.
Norms.
And norms are informal ways of how we're interacting with each other. Right. A formal way might be, are we going to have minutes? Are we going to write down, is somebody going to be...
And action items.
Yeah, and action items. And those get set out, and then you can, it would then result in getting an agenda going for the future of the next meeting and so forth. And those agenda issues should be guides to what you're going to try to accomplish in a given point in time, or for a given time.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So from my experience, when you're talking with an individual, you usually use the term goals when you're talking about something they need to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, when we're talking at a team or an organizational context, I've typically seen the term objective used. Do you differentiate between those two, or is that synonymous?
I think objectives and goals are the same thing.
Okay.
And shouldn't be really. Output is what I would use for chartering. So what is it that we want to accomplish as a group, and what does that look like in terms of how much time we're going to dedicate to it, how much resources that we have in it, and things that everybody participates in. So it's not the boss setting the roles of people. We have to get at the roles that people want to play in the group. And for example, if we don't have a certain set of expertise, we got to go out and get that. It means we have to recruit other people on the team, or get other people assigned to the team.
You just hit it on a really important point, I think, is that when we're establishing the charter or the norms, it's a collaborative effort. It's not just one person saying, this is how we're going to do business. It's everyone with their buy-in. And I think that goes back to even the motivation we talk about. It gives them autonomy. They feel like they're part of the process.
Although from my experience, starting from scratch with a team that's all new is very time-consuming and difficult, and not as productive as sometimes starting off with a framework and saying, here's what I've got so far, and then you get the team together and collaborate and modify, add, change, remove.
Yeah, that's a good technique, yeah.
And just from my experience, because I've gotten nowhere sometimes trying to start from scratch, and 3-4 hours later we're no further along. But if I had just gone off, put together my thoughts as the leader, or with the stakeholders, or
you're acting like in a visionary state, right? Like you're kind of, as the leader, you're providing a vision, but no, as long as I understand that it can be changed, modified, like you said, then there's prior to the execution phase of that team, I guess. So I agree with like having kind of like a framework or somewhere to start, but make sure that they feel comfortable enough to be able to change it.
I'm totally. If everyone isn't bought in fact, in a Lean Six Sigma event, you have everyone sign the charter typically, so that they all agree. This is the objectives. This is the scope. These are our norms or values or whatever you put into the charter. It's a directive leadership behavior, but you need everybody on board.
Lots of times, groups are sponsored. And what that means is that a group of people or executives in a team in a company says, we know we got a lot of people dissatisfied with pay here. Well, let's get a cross-functional group of people that will take that question on and come to a certain point and present to the strategic
the process
committee,
owner, stakeholder.
The stakeholders. Here's what we would recommend. So it's not just generated out of a one person's thought. It's generated out of the need of the organization, and people see that attached to the need itself and what it means, and want to be part of it because they realize that it's going to affect them. It's going to affect people that they care about in the organization.
That's a big challenge we saw in the government. Was you'd have this process owner who's the ultimate decision maker on whether they move forward with whatever recommendations the team ultimately makes. And that kind of situation is a great example. So you get this group of people from across the organization. We did it at KES. I think you were part of that group where we brought people from all the different projects, and some from back office, from some from the different programs. And we had a mission from the owner to try to recommend certain areas that the company could focus on to make improvements in process and culture, whatever it was, and what would we do. But if the project owner or the stakeholder, the person in charge that is ultimately going to make that decision, isn't bought in on it from the beginning and isn't kind of kept in the loop throughout the process, then you end up doing all this work, you come out with these great recommendations, you present it to the guy, oh, yeah, okay, thank you. and then nothing happens.
The report goes into the circular file.
And what's the worst thing you could do is take all your best performers, have them put in all this extra work in the organization going above and beyond, and then just see their whole effort just go, like I need a balloon effect. Like,
yeah. I've seen that recently as well.
So that means that the sponsor has to be clear about the givens that they won't go past. We used to call them sacred cows, but it was places where no, you can't do that.
Okay,
no, we're not. So let's be really clear. For example, if you have the charge that you want to look at the structure, salary structures, that the discussion has to be somewhat confidential. In other words, the amount of information about how much people are making ends up being kicked around informally. So the group then, that means, has to have boundaries that they have to honor in and out of the meetings about what the information is and how it's going. That's all that kind of stuff of norms that are things have to be thought of first.
You can't discuss little Johnny's salary with anyone else outside of the group, right?
Yeah, he's making that much.
Exactly,
God, well, I'm not.
That's a great. We had a KS when we had the budget report got issued out to everybody, and it had everyone's salary on there. This is like a group of probably 200 people, maybe.
So. We had a separate document where we strip all the formulas. We just do like paste values, and then we send that info out. And then somebody forgot to. And they sent out the whole thing with all the formulas behind it and had the whole roster of salaries. 150 plus people got to see everyone else's salaries. And man, I'll tell you, in certain situations, I think you can have like a meritocracy and things where all that's very transparent and everybody knows what everybody makes. But in a culture where that's not the norm, and then it happens, oh man, it created a lot of hate.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't understand how those salaries come about. Whether there's lots of factors that go into why somebody makes what they make. It's not just the labor category they're in.
But fortunately for that situation, we did our due diligence behind the scenes. I don't think anything was way out of whack or unfair. There's always going to be situations where somebody came in like at a time in the market where it was just really pressing, or we had this really high need and we had to go a little higher. They were better at negotiating.
So as we start talking about the initial startup of a group, we have to have norms that incorporate the sponsor's wishes as well as the group's understanding of what they're doing and what they can and can't do. Now, I'm raising that because chartering often isn't done well, and people have to understand that in the chartering, we're spelling out rules that we all have to conform to at a particular point or during, before, and after the thing is done. And the second thing is that often doesn't get set in groups is their way of making decisions. Decision making is a huge point of confusion. So just quickly, there's like 4 or 5 common ways of making decisions in groups. One is the leader decides.
Right.
The second is that it's a vote of majority. Majority rule is not same as consensus.
Correct.
Majority rule. Then there's minority rules because people don't care about the issue and they just dope off and don't get into it. And so you get 3 or 4 people who are so strongly emphasizing it that it gets forced or into the minutes.
That's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, kind of like they're just so vocal about it. So intimidation maybe comes about. Maybe.
Yeah. So you got this minority rule, majority rules. You got
minority
leaders. Well, another one that's really funny. There's 2 more. One is decision by plop, and that's where you got 8 people around the table, and everybody goes, "How many thinks that Jimmy should be president?" Nobody says anything because they are at a point where they're capable of even talking about honestly to the other people, and and it just goes nowhere. And so a decision by plop, and you get this one person who's got a great idea and he keeps putting it in there, going, no,
pick
no,
me.
yeah, and it's, oh, geez. So decision by plop, which means it doesn't get done. And that's what's happening, for example, I believe, in certain of the...
so they're like decision
you're talking
by no decision?
Right.
By no decision?
By not making a decision, you've made a
Got
decision,
it.
you're not going to do it.
And then the last one is consensus, which means that everyone has to say, I don't object to it.
Yeah.
Right. I may not agree, but I can support it.
That's right.
Correct.
So now those 5 ways of making decisions should be discussed after the first and during the first meeting that you're having. Now, some groups are not mature enough to be able to do that because they don't know the technical requirements. They don't know where they're going to fit. So there's a lot of, sort of, we say, pushing and shoving about how decisions be made. And of course, you can have more than one way of making it depending upon the stakeholders. So if you have, if I was ever, I was in a certain chance to lead a recruitment. They were going to hire a dean for the School of Education, and I was managing that. And it was awful because there were so many interests that people had about who they wanted to be, and the provost happened to be the stakeholder that you don't want to mess with, the sacred cows. And so we got the stakeholder to say, here's what here's the salary, what we can pay, here's the kind of person I think we should be looking for, and we try not to violate those, but within those, present me with a certain set of alternatives. Now, decision by plop in that particular case was hard because some people had interests that they wanted to have served and they didn't want to let go. But the point I wanted to come back to is that if we decide that leader decides, then the provost was the one that should have made the decision about who's going to be hired and offered the job, not the committee. Let's be clear, our job was to come up with a group of people that meet certain criteria, but we're not going to make the choice.
You can make a recommendation.
So those kind of things need to be really set out clearly as much as possible in given situations.
So in that case, you're managing expectations. So
that's right.
So the people that are vested and make it or think they're making a decision don't get vetoed,
or they totally disagree.
Right.
So the provost has somebody he has in his pocket that he wants to see. But we don't go anywhere near his candidate. We better know that, because we're just.
That doesn't happen, does it?
Oh,
does it?
It sure does, baby. It happens constantly.
It's not what you know; it's who you know.
So, right. But I would say in a team, you're not necessarily going to have one single way you're going to make decisions. You're going to have for different types of decisions or different severities of decisions or importance or priority.
That's right.
Sometimes it may if you have a group of, if you have a group of founders in a company, you might go by consensus on whether you're going to remove one of those founders for that type of decision. But when it comes to, which effort are we going to focus on, or where are we going to buy some new product to help us with our thing? That might be a leader decision.
Well, the point I was making was that there are ways of varying the kinds of decisions or how you make a decision, but being clear about what you're stepping over. If you start, we were all consensus. I was in a group where there was no chance we were going to reach consensus. None. There were too many self-interested group members.
So you have to shift.
So what we really did was to said, okay, maybe we can't reach consensus here. Maybe we have to go with leader. Either leader or vote, democracy of majority rules. But let's be clear, those are the kinds of things we want to talk about up front, and you have to be prepared to do that. If we step on the sponsor's toes, we have to know that we've done that.
It's so important in that situation where you're changing direction or how you're going to the process.
How you're going to decide.
It needs to be discussed and almost agreed upon, like everyone is on the same page. So it's not just done arbitrarily. Everyone has an idea what's going on. So communication, I think, is incredibly.
That's procedural justice, is making sure everyone at least is on board. If they're all expecting one thing and then you just go and try to do another.
Or we've discussed that possibility, and if those circumstances are true, because certain forms of decision making have pluses and minuses to them. If consensus is what you decide you're going to do, consensuses can't be done with 15, 25 people. That's just impossible. But if you have 8 or if you have 9, you might be able to get the consensus there. The Supreme Court is an example of that. But it's what I wanted to hear people understand is when you know your norms, when you know your outcomes, when you've done your chartering, when you've looked at how you're going to make your decisions, that sets up highly probable group of being people effective because they agree with what it is that they're going to start off doing.
So, but if you need to change the way you're going to make a decision,
it has to be
How
announced.
do you make that decision?
You have to be announce it. Well, it's the same thing with problem solving, bro. Because that's the
There's
next
options, right?
I was going to say that's one of the major problems. People don't follow any kind of problem solving process. What is the problem we're professionally wrestling with? What are the alternatives? And when I mean with S's, I mean more than one alternative. If you don't have more than one alternative, it's not a. It's
That
not
was
a-
one of my favorite workshops, though, facilitating problem solving. I mean, that teaches
It
people
is.
that process.
It
It's
is.
super
a short
important.
Yeah.
It's another
exercise
micro skill.
with the
Yeah.
toothpicks or what? Didn't we do?
What's that?
No,
We did an exercise in that. We have an
The
exercise
toothpicks?
in that class that you switched in there with the having to get the bridge over with the pencils or something.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, where you're sitting on the island in like a square, and then you got to figure out how to use a popsicle sticks or
Yeah,
to get across. Yeah.
that was a fun one.
Well, coming back to the point.
Anyways, I was just trying to make a joke, but you didn't.
I'm sorry.
You didn't catch it at all.
I mean it, leader. Oh, great exalted one. I apologize.
Come on.
Yeah, come on.
No. I'm just saying everyone's trying to do consensus and nobody can come up with a consensus, so you decide to switch to
something
leader
other.
only. How do you make that decision? What if nobody agrees in the consensus to switch your decision?
Yes.
You have to
Those
look about what
crocodiles.
you're losing and
It
winning.
was crocodiles, not sharks. Sorry.
Oh, crocodiles.
I digress.
Man, we're all over the place.
All right. So let's go.
Getting back. Coming on back.
Chartering, norms,
Yep. Decision making.
decision making is another one. The other is
Yep.
how do we pick members of the committee if we want to, or the group, that if we want to add to it. Those are interesting things.
Like team selection, you're talking about?
Yeah, or we may not
Well,
have
voting
that.
members.
Changes.
How do you decide who gets a vote? Maybe I don't know if you're doing voting. I don't know.
Well, I was thinking if we don't have the expertise necessary to solve the problem we're working with.
Okay.
And so those are things to start off with as skills. So I'm just calling this chartering, what we're talking about. There are others, such as conflict resolution, which is another interesting problem.
Is that a supportive or directive?
It's a conflict resolution is a supportive, inspiring behavior, and
Inspiring.
it's predicated on the idea that there are 4 or 5 ways of resolving conflict. One is we can resolve conflict by
Win-lose.
win-lose. Yeah, I call it. Win-lose is a really good way to think about it. No, I present my idea, and you present your idea,
And we go with what?
and we go with the group's voting decisions. What our decision is to.
Yeah.
So that's one.
There's compromise or like lose.
Yeah. So you have.
There's a little.
If I could just quickly, those conflict resolutions are, one is compromise. People say, "Well, I'll give you this if you give me that," and then we have accommodate, which is, okay, I'm just going to give you whatever you want, but in the future, you better be ready to give me something else, which could be in the front end, you're starting with just accommodation, and then there is competing. Okay, let's get our ideas out on the table, and we'll have a
Fight it out.
That's the win-lose.
that's the fight and I call it competition.
Well, accommodating is like a lose-win. Competition is a win-lose.
Yeah, because you're taking the loss first. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and-
Compromise is we both win a little and lose a little.
that's compromise. It's
Yeah.
But there are pluses and minuses to those types of
Yeah.
decisions.
There's a fourth one, right?
There's another one.
5.
In other words,
Collaboration.
there's collaboration
Which is
is the
win-win.
one where it's a win-win, because what we've done is gone to a solution that neither of us thought about, and we got something that might be completely different from what we've started with. But all of a sudden, hey, I never thought about that. Well,
Yeah. So Chris Voss has a great book about Never Split the Difference, and he's an FBI negotiator. Aaron met him, got to know him.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Very New York.
And he's an
Style.
FBI negotiator, and he says never split the difference, right? So he's never saying don't compromise.
Compromise.
But what I think he's advocating for is the collaboration for understanding. And one of the coolest things he says, when you're trying to get behind the mindset of somebody doing something devious and trying to figure out why they're doing what they're doing, and this always stuck with me. But if you get them to say like, "Oh, you're right," then that doesn't mean you've gotten through to them, because they're just kind of agreeing with you. But he said what you're looking for is when they say, "Oh, that's right," when you're starting to, so this collaboration of trying to understand why they do, and you get to this area of like, oh, that's right. So it's this understanding. Then it's a win. You usually get a win-win out of it.
Well, the last form of the 5 is avoid.
Right. Lose.
You lose. You just don't do it.
Right. But if you've seen The Office, there's a 6th one,
Which is?
win, win, win. And that's where the facilitator also wins because Steve Carell gets the positive feelings and something beneficial out of the other 2 people winning.
Oh, why did I follow that? Why did I even let it get happen?
Have you seen that episode of The Office?
No, let's be sure to put a link in the.
I'm sure there's a
envelope.
YouTube video of it when he's doing a conflict resolution between Jim and Dwight, I think, and he's reading this book. He's like, "Oh, look at this! There's a win-win-win where I win too, and I'm the facilitator. I like that."
So conflict resolution is a skill, and I think believe leaders have to have that and begin to understand it. So we got decision making and we have chartering, and those are examples of what supportive behaviors can be used to move the block of people into a more positive sense of accomplishment and oftentimes a better solution or recommendation or recommendations. And so managers don't have those skills, don't have conflict.
You need to be aware of them, that they even exist. A lot of managers don't even know. They have no idea.
Exactly.
They have no idea.
Exactly. Let's just shut up. I'm the boss.
Yeah, exactly.
You got any ideas? Oh, that's not.
Yeah.
You'll never know it.
Although I'd say it's almost worse when they pretend like they care and they ask you for your feet, like Jimmy was talking about
That's the
before.
worst.
Was it's one thing to just be, at least they're straightforward and honest that they don't care about your opinion. It's not good, but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. It's both bad.
Pretending.
Well,
You need to care about your people.
then one of the things last point, which is that there is the idea of understanding the progression of the group's development, or another way of saying it is their
Phases of performance.
Yeah, phases.
So I think that's a good next
close.
podcast because we're kind of getting to time again.
Okay.
So that's a great transition.
Yeah.
And we can get into the phases of performance of a team.
Okay.
So I'm doing the Jimmy role here. We need a joke.
No, so it's
Did you have one?
I did. I have one, but it didn't really resonate well with Drea. So we'll see.
Oh, no, don't use me.
Wait, you told him a joke,
Hey.
just like I did with the.
So Cooper came down to dinner the other day, excited to tell a joke, and he told
from
the
his
joke-
calendar cards.
Yeah, from his calendar
Yeah, yeah.
cards, and he kind of laughed before he got the punchline, which was great.
That's the best.
Yeah, but okay, so I'm playing it up kind of like you were doing it before.
Yeah.
So what kind of factory puts out okay products?
Trey is looking at me
Do
like,
you
get
know?
ready to.
Do you know?
No.
Oh,
Oh, a Satisfactory. I got a little chuckle.
Where's
And
my
it's-
sound? Oh, I did the voice. That was on the wrong thing.
Anyways,
how about somebody asked me the other day, "Are you superstitious?" And I said, "No, I'm just stitious."
no.
He just then I can't.
No, just a little stitious.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Stitious?
No, it's like super. Are you superstitious? Are you
just a little
very?
He didn't get it.
He didn't get it.
I just kind of went over my head. Sorry.
It's
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
All right.
Little Guardians of the Galaxy quote.
Oh no, is that right?
Yeah.
It
Have you
was
seen
the raccoon that
Drax.
did
That's
it?
Drax.
I saw he was in Dune. Drax was in Dune.
Yeah.
I saw that last night for the first time. It's a good movie. I didn't realize that.
That was the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, Drax is.
It's the raccoon, right?
No. Drax is the big.
buff dude. He's very
the
sensitive.
woodish guy. Kind of.
Yeah,
He's literal about everything.
Yeah.
in that. But he's the actor. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but he's actually in Dune, which we just watched last night. And Dune 2 is coming out in March, I guess. So they're a little delayed because of all the strikes that were happening. But yeah, so he's in there. So I can't. Every time I see him, I think of Guardian of the Angels, and he's not the same
Guardians
character.
of the Galaxy.
Sorry, what did I say?
Guardians of the Angels. I don't know. Never heard of that movie.
It's another movie that we have to just take that part out.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, Guardians of Galaxy. No, but I always think when I see him as acting, I think he's gonna have that same persona or same, but he's not.
So we're going with the factory joke.
You got it. You got it.
What was it? A low performing factory?
No, what kind of factory puts out okay products
Okay
or
product.
makes okay products?
And what was it again?
Satisfactory.
A satisfactory.
The saddest factory. Dunk, dunk.
The other one he told was
It's cute.
Yeah, they're little dad jokes, and it's cool that he's telling them. So, what kind of relationship?
But he thought that was funny, I guess, because Cooper couldn't even get it out. He started laughing before he even finished.
And then there's what kind of relationship did two houses get into?
Two houses?
Two houses, like a house, like this house. Two houses. What kind of relationship do they get into? A long distance relationship.
He got you. He got you.
That was so bad.
He crapped out.
They are bad. They're so bad. They're funny.
That's not funny. Why am I laughing?
He liked it.
I didn't like it.
You didn't like
I'm
it.
just laughing. I don't know why.
How long?
I think he broke something up there. A long distance.
Broke something up there.
It doesn't even have to do with the house. The lawns is not even.
Oh, help me.
I get it.
Really. Good, Coop. Keep them coming, kid.
That's right.
That's
Keep 'em
like
coming.
the antenna joke. Did I tell that one on the podcast? Where two antennas got married? The ceremony wasn't that great, but the reception was
Really good.
incredible.
There you go.
Oh, God. He can't believe you told that one.
Good stuff.
All right. Well,
All right.
thanks for joining. And we'll pick this back up with phases of performance. Congrats! You made it to the end of the episode. Thanks for tuning in. We genuinely hope that you found value in our conversation. If you liked it, please click that like button below and subscribe so that you can stay up to date on our current episodes. And if you didn't like it, you can click the dislike button, but make sure you click it twice. We're eager to hear from you, whether it's your thoughts, questions, topic ideas, or if you're interested in our leadership training and consulting support. Leave us a comment below or reach out to us directly at info@intrinsicfirst.com. We're open to any and all feedback. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to having you back for more insightful leadership discussion. Until next time.